I think I can set a precedent that the wife goes first.
No, you said you could. Well, now we know who's boss.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you have my undivided attention, I'll answer any questions.
What kind of car did you drive? We know what kind of car you drove.
Well, it's always a tough choice. Where if you have to drive that old van, we have this car sitting all around our parking space. Our problem is where to park them and keep them. We have to decide, the problem we have is which car to drive in the rain, because I don't want to drive the Cadillac in the rain, don't want to drive the little sports car in the rain. So when it rains, we drive trucks.
I didn't want to drive in the rain. I wouldn't drive anything for you.
Comment about you. I am so happy to see you finally spending some of your money here on earth. I really am, because I really was worried we're going to just slide your coffin with lots of dollars.
Well, you have to recognize that my habits of frugality, you know, which is shared by Linda, and our whole philosophy of saving and investing, is the reason that now we don't ever have to do that. We don't have to save anything. And this year has been the point that we just had absolutely a phenomenal year in the stock market. Always we've done well in investments and in real estate and in stocks, but this year it has just been, and all of a sudden I realized that I don't need to leave anything for anybody other than leave a trust fund for Brian, adequate to supplement his income. So he won't be, financially impaired. But I'm finding more and more that all these years we've been buying things for him. As recently as 3 years ago, I bought Brian a wheelchair and paid for it $6,000. Didn't think much about it. The government would have bought it and paid for it. All we had to do was ask him.
You can pay no taxes.
Well, anyway, so that is the reason. We are blessed. I mean, and you're right. My whole attitude, and it's a nice attitude to have, is I no longer look at the menu and decide what I'm going to eat based on the far right. I don't care what it says. It doesn't matter whether I spend $10 or $50 on this meal or $2. It doesn't matter. I get what I want, and it's a nice, different way of living. Anybody else have any questions about me or my family or what we're doing?
Is there a store ready?
I don't think it's official. They talked to us about it, and I think I can put it that Brian and Tina are tentatively planning on getting married in June in Spartanburg at Grant Park. That's planned, but that's 8 months away.
What I kind of noticed is that I don't see Brian. I guess Tina's up there at school, right?
Right.
It used to be that almost any time I got an email, Brian was on there.
Yeah, he was on your buddy list. I talked to him literally every day when I go on American Online. It almost was a little bit of a nuisance, because if I went on American Online, he always popped up and said hi, and I was usually on there doing something. I really didn't have time to talk right then.
But here lately, it's
since Tina's been up there, I haven't seen him online at all. There's two reasons for that. The primary reason is that he hasn't been using that as a social thing. He's spending time with her. The second reason is more recently his computer's broken.
Oh, well, that would definitely put a kid
Brian continues to do well, and I think he's growing and learning. His life is not without some problems. I mean, he gets frustrated and overreacts to things, and Brian also, in addition to his physical handicap impairing his ability to walk and do certain physical things, it also impairs his ability to camouflage how he feels. And so, if you say something to Brian and he doesn't like it, he could never play poker. Because you've heard of people wearing their emotions on their sleeves and those kind of expressions. Well, Brian has no facade. He doesn't have the ability. If he is angry and disagrees with you, he could just as well say it because it's written all over him. And so everybody he talks to up there reads him. And that's, you know, that's not something that's true about everybody.
Well, what career is that from?
I wonder that too.
I think it's physical, I
Really
really do.
genetic in the Usherman family to me.
I think it's physical in Brian's case because, you know, when Brian gets mad, it's just like, he tightens up. He doesn't have the ability to tell his muscles to relax or to tell himself to smile when he wants to frown. He just doesn't have the ability to camouflage his muscle reaction to things, and that's what tells about it.
It's not fake.
He's not what?
Fake.
Fake.
No, he's not a fake. He couldn't fake it if he wanted to. What else?
All right, how's Brent doing?
I'd have to let Linda tell you about Brent because I don't have much interaction with him.
Pulling through? Well, I don't want to talk in the microphone. Do I have to talk in the microphone?
Everybody huddle around Linda.
Since the first question is about Brent, I'll address that one. Brent and his girlfriend are living in Columbia, and Brent is working at Applebee's during the lunch hour, and he's working at Outback Steakhouse in the evening, and he is still open and pursuing music whenever he can find time for that. He will be at our house tomorrow, you know, Granite Park City. He'll be there for about 24 hours. He has to be back in Columbia probably before we get back. So I do stay in touch with him by mail and by phone, and I have been down to visit him. And so I continue to pray that he will do better in his life, you know, than what I see him doing. And that's all I can do in that situation. And I just continue to show him and Angie, you know, as much love as I've got. And that's all I can do. And the rest of my time, I have thoroughly enjoyed tennis lately. Our mixed doubles team, which is a summer thing, Steve and I play on the same team. Our mixed doubles team went to state again. And Steve and I won our match, so that was very exhilarating. We played a terrific match. And this fall I'm playing with a good friend of mine, Judy. And we play doubles on our team. And we've won all our matches. So that's my fun part. One of the most fun things I'm doing right now. And we're doing things on the house and making changes to the house. And I stay busy with that. And having Steve outside. And that's all.
It's pretty impressive, but, you know, I'm impressed. That's it.
Okay.
Well, either Daddy or Ted.
Happy.
Overlook you. Well, I know she won't need a microphone.
I don't need my, I know, hey, listen, I take it. Well, everybody in here, I know, knows that the Lord has become very real and personal to, I can say to myself that he has become very real and personal to Ed and I both in the last 2 years. And that's probably the most exciting thing that has been happening to us. The Lord was always important to me, but I was never willing to give up total control to him. And Ed and I were involved in a Bible study class, Experiencing God. And my biggest fight for this whole thing was I don't want to give up control. I'll give you this much and let me have the rest. You can do whatever you want with this. And watching the progression as we went through this program, and all of a sudden, about 3/4 of the way through, all of a sudden, all right, take it. You can have control. It's all yours. And the difference it made in my life and the peace it came to me and what it meant. It has just been wonderful. Besides that, Ed and I are starting to program ourselves for retirement, which when Ed turns 60, they take his captain's rights away from him, and either he retires.
They do?
Either he retires totally from United Airlines Airlines, or else he may come back for a year or so as the second officer. That decision is totally his decision and not mine. When I think that he might be retiring in 2 years, I just keep thinking, I know I'm too young to retire. I'm 48 years old. I can't even picture my life without United Airlines controlling several days a week, a month. And so I don't, trying to picture myself as that. Tara is a junior in high school, and in a year and a half, she's going to be leaving to go to college, which Ed and I would become empty nesters, and we're sort of excited about that because, we got married Christmas Eve and January 12th, I got pregnant. So we've been parents almost as long as we've been married. And so we're looking forward to having our home and our time to ourselves. And that'll be pretty good. How we handle it and when we start retirement, I don't know that. We'll just play that by ear. Tara has become very close to the Lord. Her life she's very involved with Young Life. In fact, she's in training right now for leadership with Young Life. She's involved with several Bible clubs within the public school system. Campus Crusade is one of them. She's involved with a youth group at the church that she is attending, which is a different church than the one that we're going to. And watching the Lord work in her life and how she is a witness to the people that she comes in contact with. It's been really wonderful. When I even told the Lord, I'm her mom, but she's yours, and she was yours before she was mine. So you're in charge, and it was like the minute you took control, it was a difference in her life. Brooke is wearing an engagement ring on her left ring finger, and she thinks she's engaged, and maybe. And if that every guy that she's going with is a famous guy, and I'm sure he would make a wonderful husband to her years down the road. But she and Aaron have both promised Ed and I that they would not talk a wedding until she finishes college, which she's in her junior year now. And if that's what she wants, I promised her I'd give it to her, but I'm going to say that a couple of years will come before that. Other than that, she's doing fine. She's not sure what she wants to do when she grows up. And hopefully the Lord will take control of her life too. I turned her over to him too, because she's his and not mine. That's where Ed and I are. Financially, we're fine. We love our home. We love living in Florida. We are playing an awful lot of golf. And the Lord has been wonderful to us. He's made our marriage bigger and better than it's ever been. And he's my best friend, and I'm his best friend. So that's where we are.
My turn, huh? I don't have very much to say. Happy to just fill you in on our lives. I'd like to say one thing, though, and that is that I have enjoyed the last 22 years of being part of the Eshelman clan. I would like to say as an in-law type that I'm very proud of you. Thelma was the glue that held this family together. And now that she's gone, I've had a little time to think about what's going to happen. You guys have made the first step. And by you guys, I mean the brothers and sisters, and we in-laws, we kind of drag along and help as we can. But you guys have made the first step to keep this family together, and I think you're doing great, and I hope we continue it, because we'll help too as in-laws. And I have one more thing to say. Nancy, we drove a blue car here.
What kind?
A blue car. I don't know what kind it was.
Well, then Marcy has to turn around.
Yeah, there's a lights up here.
There's better light down there for the cameras, really. Plus I get to put my feet around.
They're gonna kick him up the other one.
Be that's a long time. I'm like sleepy.
Pull it straight
Well, I
out.
thought,
There you go.
I thought,
Hello, everybody.
hi, Jeff.
It's been a very exciting couple of years in my life, because it's been very exciting 20 years. I had went through a lot of hurts and things, and after going through a divorce, that was the most hurtful thing that ever happened to me. 'Cause I'm kind of an emotional, close person who got married too young, but all that, what that did was for me, looking back, and I relate very well with what Marcy said, that it gave me experiences that helped me to deeply feel for other people, not just feel, but feel deeply for that person being alone at night without their wife and their kids. And after they wake up to maturity level after a while, and also having the hurt of not having your kids with you on a daily basis. For a while when I was living with Lisa and sin and adultery, but I used to wake up in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep. And she'd get me up and pour bourbon down me because I could sleep, and I realized what I lost. Could not sleep. I lived in a miserable existence. And she, one time, I was working with European Health Spa. I was coming back to Greenville, and went down there one weekend and talked to Lisa. And Lisa told me, I sat in the car and said, "Now Lisa, I have $75,000 tax liens against me. I'm divorced. I have 2 children. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And if I were you, I would leave." And she looked at me, put her arm around me, told me that it don't matter what. As long as I love you and you love me the way you do, I believe that you're committed, we can make it. And it wasn't long after that I decided to marry Lisa, because it's easy to love someone when they're up, but it's hard to love someone when they're down. And the real test of someone is when they accept you, as Steve said, unconditional as a friend. So Lisa did that, and she's always been very good to me. Anyway, I've been blessed probably more than anyone in here, because I have 5 children, and I don't know how many of y'all have 5 children, but I don't think it's a lot. I have a daughter that went to Smith College. One time she called me up when I was trying to help them out financially, and told me she wanted to go to Smith College, and sent me a student book about going to Smith, and it's $37,000 a year to go to Smith College. And I told her I'd be glad to help you to go to any school in this country, but $37,000 is insane. So I got about 30 days later, I got a letter from an attorney that said that she was going to meet me in court and force me to help her go to school. And anyway, and it's funny because I talked to Maury today, but after all that experience, which was what it did is it concreted in Maury's mind what she was seeking after. When I look back at it, I was bitter at her when she did it. But now when I look back at it, and I'm sure she would do things different, but it will all work out for good, because I feel like she loves me more than ever, and I love her more than ever. I'm very, very proud of her. I mean, the kid that makes straight A's on her final report card in her junior year in college at Smith College, one of the hardest schools, probably one of the hardest schools in the country, is very phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. But anyway, I talked to her just yesterday, and she was really excited about what she's been doing this year in her senior year. And after this year, she's planning on taking some time and working like the Peace Corps. And then the next year, maybe going to law school she wants to go to a good school, such as Georgetown or some school like that, and would like to end up being a politics. That's sort of kind of her goal. I mean, when I was at her graduation party at her mother's house, her mom told me that someday she wouldn't surprise me if Marty was president of the United States, and I quit again, right? Well, I don't know what Marty might accomplish. I mean, she's a phenomenal person. She has tremendous, more than having the mental aptitude, she has tremendous stigma, which is and perseverance. Because when she was in high school, she used to stay up all night and study. I mean, Courtney is going to school at Coastal Carolina. I never thought Courtney could ever make it to school, college, because she had a hard enough time making it through high school. And Courtney was Maury was always know how to get what she wants. Courtney was kind of in the background always with Maury, but Courtney's making it. She's doing well. She's passing, and I'm proud of her. Teddy has always been very smart. He's an honor society student in an honors class. Sometimes he has problems with math. All the other classes he makes straight A's. I mean, sometimes he makes 8, 9 in math. But of course, it's in the 90s. And Megan and Abby are very hyper children, and I don't know if it's because they're twins or not, but Lisa drills with them. So we have a tough time in our house in the evenings because Lisa would drill with them sometimes at 10 o'clock at night, trying to make sure that they know what they're supposed to know. Like last week, we were studying angles, with trying to drill that into their heads or something. I never experienced that as a kid, except one time maybe with Bonnie or Nancy or somebody here. They were drilling something into me, and I'll never ever forget that. I mean, they were hammered. Well, that's the way it is at my house every night. Lisa is drilling it in these kids. So we are thinking about having Megan and Abby tested because, you know, some people, there's not anything wrong with them mentally. It's just that their minds are going so fast that they need to slow down a little bit. And some kids, you know, used to think that they had a learning disability or a problem. When they really didn't have a problem, they tend to find out they were helped, and their grades went C's and B's and straight A's, you know, perfect, with very little problems, but they just were able to hear and soak in things, and that's something that's really exciting. But Lisa just recently started work after a long time of not working. I mean, in fact, it's funny because when we had Teddy, she decided she didn't want to work. She was a trained school teacher, and she kept telling me she's going back to work, and I kept encouraging her to because I think that, personally, that she should have some kind of outside interest. I want her to relate with other people, have a life other than involved in a house, get out of the house, not be stagnant. And that was just my feelings. But I talked to her recently, and she just loves her job. It's her skating. And what she does is deal with kindergarten kids, kind of like Marcy in some ways. She deals with kindergarten kids because they come to school for 4 hours, I think, early in the morning or late afternoon, and there's nothing for them to do in the other time. So Lisa helps them from 10:30 to 2:30 on a daily basis. As far as work goes, you know, the car business has been a miracle in my life. Went in the car business. Had a tax lien for $75,000. I went to a round holiday inn in Charleston, South Carolina. They had an ad said a national loan company looking for a consultant, company car. And I thought I was going to work for Brian Williams Tobacco Company or something. You know, get me a nice company car and you know, and come to port. And when I went in there, I worked at European Health Spas, which was next door to West Texas Toyota. And there was a consultant that I knew, because sometimes I'd walk out and I'd see her. And I seen her in the lobby. And when I seen her, I said, "Is this selling cars?" And she said, "Yes." I turned around and walked out of the, well, I seen her on like the 3rd floor right outside the interview. She was writing her name down on the seat with the took. And I said, "I'm not going to do this." And I went downstairs. And when I went downstairs, what's really weird is they chased me down the elevator, came outside and got me, brought me back upstairs and said they want to talk to me. 3 days later, I went to work for West Texas Toyota. Was in training for 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks there, I sold more cars than other people sold for the whole rest of that month. I sold 17 cars. The time when I started there, I was salesman like 10 out of every 12 months, almost consistently. And then I moved down the street to, one time they lied to me. They told me they were going to give me a company car if I was selling a month. And I would not long without would sell it. And so I had my car and had my stuff in it. And they, and I took it back. I was supposed to have it cleaned once a week. Well, I had it back and cleaned it up. I was working very hard to do my thing. And the salesman went, I seen a lot guy coming up with all my radar equipment and cassettes and everything. I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, the sales manager said that he was going to want your car." Well, we stood up for everybody in that room at that business that was going to be the salesman's car, and they had a sign inside the door. And I went to him and said, "I mean, you know, you're a liar. And I can't work with somebody that lies. If you stand up in front of everybody in the room and lie, then you're a liar." So this ain't going to work. So I left and went down the street and worked at another dealership. I called this other dealership, and this dealership, and they said, "What is it going to take to get you to come work here?" And I said, "Let me drive a 300 ZX Turbo." At that time, it was 280 ZX Turbo. And I laughed. Figured they were going to laugh. And they were going, "You crazy? Nobody drives these kind of cars." And I said, "Well, that's what I want." And I hung up the phone. And next day, he called me up and said, "Come down and see me." And I went down and seen them, and they said, "What color do you want?" so I started working with them, and I worked with them for 9 years, 7 months, and during that time I averaged 30 cars a month selling cars, which is pretty phenomenal in Charleston, South Carolina. It's not, it wasn't Atlanta, Georgia, or some big city in a big market. It was 30 cars a month. And at that time, I was making between $80,000 and $100,000 consistently a year. And I don't think I've ever felt beneath that since I got out of the deep depression I was going through. One time I went to Market House with Mom and Dad, when I was going through the deepest despair, and I was rock bottom, emotional, crying. It felt like, I could fall up in a fetal position and say, please go away, let this all go away. I don't know what it is. I don't want to live anymore. I'm dead. I screwed up. I got 2 beautiful daughters, more importantly, and early and she's going somewhere. What am I going to do? And I could have been committed probably to an insane asylum or something. But anyway, it all turned out, and I ended up paying the government back, at time, $75,000. I went down there, and they one day levied my wages when I was at West Astoria, trying to work out all this mess. And I went in and I was really embarrassed. I was deeply embarrassed. Get a levy say they were going to take all your money and give you like $200 a week to live on. I said, I can't live on $200. So I went down to the tax office and met this guy named Mike Wright. And Mike Wright, and I sat down and said, for some reason he believed in me, and I started paying him back on a monthly basis. And it didn't take very long, and I paid him back. Every penny of it, $75,000. And he waived the taxes and penalty for me after that point. And in fact, this guy came and bought cars for me. He liked me a lot anyway. And so that I worked through that, and now I live in a house. It's a 3,200 square foot house. It's in a real nice area in Charleston. I drive nice cars. I work as a sales manager at a dealership. I later, after working for Morris Nissan, which was a family-owned store, one day I got a call from somebody at the Rick Henry Chevrolet in Charleston, which owns 82 dealerships, and they called me and wanted me to come to work there. And not only they called me about every couple of hours. They called me. I'd be out cutting the grass. They called me. I'd be cleaning my garage. They called me. I'd be painting my house. They called me. I'd go down the house. They called me. There's a competition, which is Gene Reed, which owns about 7 dealerships. He called me from his boat outside of Virginia. He called me from Florida. He called me all the time. Even after I told him I was going to Rick Henry Chevrolet, he called me until the general manager called him up and said, don't ever call Ted at this dealership anymore. He works here. You can call him at his house. But I was working all the time. And I went and asked him, how's he going to call me to my house? I don't get home until 10, 11 o'clock every night. So how's he going to call me? He's going to call me at midnight. But anyway, I started working there. The first month there, I sold 27 cars. And they made me a manager at that store. They bought a Jeep store and made me the general sales manager. Now what's going on, the Jeep store was, we got it up to like, it was the first month, when we went there, that store was selling about 27 to 30 cars a month, somewhere in that range. That following Sunday, we hit in the 240s at that store. Anyway, when they called me about going to Rick Hendricks, I said, you need to let Rick Hendricks call me. And they said, well, Rick Hendricks to call you. I said, well, I want to meet this guy. If I'm going to work with him, I knew that the only way I was going to have any future was to meet the head honcho guy, not just the dealers, because you get lost in the plot. So Rick Hendricks called me at my house one day, and I picked up the phone. This guy said, hello, this is Ted. And I said, it is. And he said, this is Rick Hendricks. And I'm like, oh, my chair up here. There's a man, phenomenal young guy. He's 50 years old. Phenomenal. Right? And as leukemia, a phenomenal person. He also help people out. But the last couple of years have been trying in the car business because manufacturers consistently put more and more dealers in a certain geographic area, which means you have to fight for the car that you're going to sell. But our dealership's still doing good. We sell twice as many as our competitors. And recently, we bought a Dodge store about 2 years ago in Charleston, and it's not doing real well right now. And they're talking to me about going there and setting up an apprentice next step, kind of having an executive general manager at the store and having a general manager, which would be me. And if you get to that range, then you can get to $200,000 to $300,000 range if you get to that range in a dealership. And who knows where it goes from there? Some of those guys make $500,000, or $1 million. Some of them make $1 million a year. There's a store in Atlanta, Georgia that nets $16 million, $6 million a year pays the general manager, 10% of the net. The sky's the limit in the car business. And all I can tell you, I've been extremely blessed. I've been on hurt real low, down real low. I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. In the car business, the one thing that's scary about it, I think any made any business. Unfortunately, you're only good as the last month that you've been in business. I mean, you start letting things drop, they'll cut you loose, and I know that in a heartbeat. Most businesses today are business is cruel like that, and that'll put a lot of pressure on you. But, so when it comes to you talking about God and stuff, I decided to remember the church and teach every other Sunday there. I rotate with another guy in special class. And kind of down and try to be, you know, when I was growing up as a kid, I wanted to be a minister, preachers like Justin and Melvin. And I felt like I was called to do that for a long time, but when I seen the political workings inside of the church, I knew that I didn't really want that. You know, I didn't know what I wanted, and I had to be called to Melvin would say or whatever. And so I felt more called. I could get a chance to work with 20 people, salespeople, and work with a lot of people that go through all kinds of things, because when they sell cars, you only get paid when you sell a car. And they have all kinds of emotional problems. Someone goes through divorce, someone goes through chronically changing jobs, someone goes through sicknesses and all kinds of stuff. And I get to bring them to my office and talk to them. And, you know, and they say, you don't want to be friends to your employees? Well, I say, I don't want an employee to work for me that's not my friend. I want every one of those guys to look to respect, not only, you know, I don't want to fear me or something, but I do want them to be held accountable, but I also want them to look at me as somebody that they can respect. In other words, if they get a customer and they can't sell them, I've been there at 12 o'clock at night and got in the car and drove down the road with them, helped them sell that car, and they come over and say, Ted, I really thank you, but I needed that commission. And I know that most sales managers wouldn't have done it. And so I have a chance to show them my Christianity through a different way, which I can tell you is pretty powerful. But I've been blessed. It's neat to be up here with my family. I will tell you this, that one reason I said that a while ago, it hurts me a little bit. I don't know if it hurts somebody else's family, but I was married to Earlene, and I am now married to Lisa, and they don't have as many brothers and sisters as we have. But what I'm going to tell you is that, as a matter of fact, I know that they're closer in a different way than we are to our brothers and sisters. I know that sometimes I've seen in this family, people have heard, sometimes you haven't heard about it until after it's over. When you look at every person in here, they have a unique set of feelings that's going on inside of them. And they all need to be deeply cared about. You need to put your arm around and hug and love. And somehow or other, I think that we could figure out a way to do that better than just maybe more than just being once a year. I don't know exactly how that would work or how to do that. I know Steve may be worth $3 million, but you can't sleep with $3 million and it don't make you feel real warm and loved. It's got to have someone that calls you every once in a while and says, you know, I was thinking about you and I care, and accepts you unconditional, whatever that you might do. And I do pray that the Lord will help me accept people unconditionally, you know, not just my family members, other members. One of the things that's happened a lot, and Mama even talked to me about, and I'll shut up, was something we do at our store called MBS training. And maturity is your ability, you know, to adapt to someone else. My maturity is not me reacting to whatever you do. It's for me to change my high personality type to adjust to you. In other words, if somebody starts screaming at me, and my nature is to tell them, shut up, don't scream at me, but just say, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. And be able to do that more and more. When you do that, you'll be surprised the way things can change. In our family, we have a lot of high D people here, and there's some other people that's not. We need to try to relate to each other the best that we can. That's all I can say on it. Anybody got any questions or anything I can answer for? I'd be happy to do that.
I love you.
Well, I'm glad to be here. You know, I'm very proud of all my brothers and sisters. It's one thing amazing, I know sometimes for some people in this family, because you have so many people in this family that seem so successful. sometimes I see people that are very successful. They don't have a damn thing that I mean, financially. What I want is to be loved and cared about. I want my kids to love me. Well, whatever I am, you know. It may not be much, but I want this to love me. I want you to love me. I'm at
We love you.
Here comes the police.
Maybe about it. You can go home. A couple weeks ago, I was standing out in the yard, and I walked out by the fence, and I was just standing there. I leaned up against the fence, and I said, God, I am so confused. And it had the tone of like, damn it, I'm confused. And it was like, I was waiting for this, the alpha and omega of my revelation, which is continually, all God will give me is, I love you. I know that. I want to have some answers. And so I was sitting there waiting, and I thought, oh man, I may have transgressed the limit this time. And I sort of braced myself for the lightning to come down, and sort of was halfway tickled that I might have that a deeper experience. I was sitting there, it struck me with such reality that God was near me, and then all of a sudden it's like that a loving laugh with me, and the minute I felt it, I started laughing at it. Here I am, the obscurity of the obscure in Jameson, not in Orangeburg. I'm in Jameson. We don't even have a mayor.
That's worse than Orangeburg?
Mayor. Hey, Orangeburg has a mayor. He pays to be the mayor, I think. But anyway. That's exactly what it sounded like, but there was a little more sympathy in the laugh. Now let's try that again. Just a little warm. But what came out of that? The thing was that out of the situation is that one of the heartfelt thing was that I have come to a point where I was thinking of the word kamikaze. I want to be a Dan. By God, let's be a Daniel. Give me a line. I'm just like, give me an airplane. I'll run it right smack into the Walt Disney. We'll blow them suckers off. Why did they pick on Walt Disney? I mean, let's go blow up Mickey Mouse. Southern Baptist, Lord help us.
Oh, them weird ones. When Mickey Mouse started doing weird, you need to do a post.
But I just, one of the things that I feel is that out of the situation, I feel like every year in 1997 here, in this setting here, the things that we have experienced, and like I especially am aware of this as we go into the year 2000, the depth of awareness to just the slightest understanding of spiritual reality, and not just a mystical or psychic reality, but something that goes down to the very roots that we have witnessed our patriarch go across the great divide with such valor and such character. I feel a preponderance of destiny, and I am convinced, and I have no earthly idea what in that, pardon the expression, hell is going on. But I sense that many of you have been placed. I have been placed. I am not in Jameson. I am King David out there, and I'm getting kind of ugly here, and I'm doing it so you'll listen. Fucking with the lions and the bears, and I'm saying that I am dickering with things. And there's a verse that says, the prophet between the altar and the pulpit will weep. See, I go into the altar and I love it, but I stand up in the pulpit and I see in these people just, he'd rather go out and have a cigar and talk to you today. He doesn't do it. I told Metropolitan that I wasn't going to do that anymore, and I hadn't for a month or so. I'd rather just go drink. In fact, sometimes I think I'll drink me a bud in here to wake you guys up, to make you think about what we're about. And sometimes I have one of those, I admit. But I am convinced that we are in a place, and we've been set up. I see this so clearly. I've been set up, and I want to tell you, to aspire to the point that God might use me to be the prophet that stands out in front of a society that has gone sickening mad. I want to encourage you, and I want to tell you, you talk about trading places with one another. You do not understand the liberty that I have. You just don't understand. I don't do squat. God has a harness on me. People, like Ted was telling me how to be successful on the way up here. Go visit. Do you think God lets me do? I'm going to tell you, and I'm trying to be, you might say, well, you're just nuts. Hey, it is quite crazy. I understand. You don't know the half of it. You see this. Hey, you should be inside this thing. But my thing is that the overwhelming thing is that one of the things, I have the liberty in my small church. Honey, I've been there for 2 years, and I'm going to tell you what. God has called me to a point where I don't play politics. Now, I tell you what, God mellows my message out. It's just so funny. On Saturday, man, I'm going around the house, throwing stuff. You wait till I get a hold of them suckers. Oh, be down there not reading their Bible. They're not witnessing. They're not loving their children. They're not touching each other and hugging each other. By God, you better get a hold of them. And Renee, bear witness, I stepped in there and she's going, oh God, I can see it now. We will be tarred and feathered today. And poor Renee, God bless that woman. You remember, I was living in immorality, in the truest sense of the word, the last time we were up here, some 7 or 8 years ago. The very fact that and you're going to have to judge the sincerity and the reality of this thing, but the very fact, I get in there and God just tempers me down. So I step in there and He slaps me around a little bit and says, are you worthy to step on their toes this morning? And I get up there and basically I just love. This is a circle of compassion. But I do believe that I am in training for something. And I want you, Ted was talking about imaging and visualizing something bigger. I feel like every one of us has enough Bible that we could be God's or God's ambassador to an entire country. Iran, Ethiopia. You have enough knowledge and where you can stand up and by the very thing that people look beyond your knowledge and beyond your experience, but they look into your heart and say, there is something in the Thelma, there's something in Maurice that's made sacrifice after sacrifice in business and personal life to stick to integrity. So I just want to call you, and I'm going to tell you, sometimes the greatest path is a path of cross. It's a sacrifice. I am coming to the point where I embrace sacrifice. I want and am experiencing the joy that I am truly anxious and willing to die for the cause. I've lost Dylan's respect by saying a few words, maybe. And I didn't do it to try to insult your integrity or your morality. But I wanted to let you know it doesn't matter. My reputation is not on the line here. If I go out of here and go back to Jameson, and God does what I see He wants to do there, and it spills out of Jameson into Orangeburg, and into South Carolina, and to New America, and into this world, I'm convinced it'll be unmistakably by anybody that has birthed me into the world, has known me from childhood, who has ever come into contact, only a sovereign, magnificent God could do what He has done through that little that little poop. So I just, I love you. I just covet your prayers. I want to tell you, I think our society, we are so close to an absolutely shaking that everything we hold to be this is a reasonable situation will be so shook up when we come away from it, we're going to be dumbfounded. And I wish I had a Bible stand. And there's only one concrete foundation that's going to stand, and it's an intimate knowledge with the heart of the message. I hope I can say a word to you. I want to tell you I love you. I wish you knew like Renee is half as much as I do. She is a princess among princesses. It's just if you did not know of any other thing about me, if you got to know her better, you would understand this is one of God's great miracles. I love you.
What exactly was, I was trying to figure out exactly what you were saying.